All right, well, good evening and welcome to the proceedings of the Grand Rapids Public Schools Board of Education. This evening is Tuesday, January 19, and the first day of hybrid. Welcome. Secretary Lewis, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Ms. Davis?
Here.
Dr. Flores?
Present.
Ms. Grant is excused. Ms. Lewis here. River Matias?
Present.
Mr. Ross?
Here.
Mrs. Williams?
Present.
Dr. Baker?
Here.
President Chotke?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. May I have a motion for approval of tonight's agenda?
So moved. Support.
All right, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. First on our agenda this evening is our celebration. Dr. Roby.
Good evening. And I'm going to ask Mr. John Helmholt to come forward to talk about the Plaster Creek Family Park design, and also Mr. Mark Cart. Craig, will you please bring both gentlemen into the meeting?
Good evening, President Chotke, members of the board.
You're
Superintendent
sideways,
Roby.
Mr.
Oh,
Helmholt.
sorry. What's going on here? And it looks like I have a light glowing over my head. Craig, is David Marquardt there? I know he's been having a hard time getting in. If not, I can always fill in for him and just keep it moving.
I don't see him by name. I do see a couple that a little cryptic. If you know his username, we might be able to, or Mark, if you're out there and you can click the raise hand button.
David, if you can click the raise hand button. Tell you what, I'll just proceed without him. He and I are two peas in a pod and have been working very closely on this project, so I think I can speak for him. I'm pleased to share a celebration today about the Plaster Creek Family Park and Burton Green Schoolyard project, which received the 2020 Park Design Award from the Michigan Recreation and Park Association. I have to give a lot of credit to David Marquardt, who's the director of the City of Grand Rapids Parks and Recreation Department, along with his staff. They played a key role in shepherding this. This became a reality as a result of Mayor Rosalind Bliss's leadership and our joint office of our community's children. The former executive director, Lynn Heemstra, and the mayor, along with GRPS, sought out an opportunity with cities connecting children to nature. And we were one of 7 cities in the entire nature selected for that grant. That grant led to community and school engagement in and around Burton School and the Plaster Creek Family Park, which is literally adjacent to and connected to the school property. As part of that, we are looking and exploring green schoolyards, nature play, and how to ensure there's a 10-minute walk to a park in every corner of our city. And I know many of the board members, you were there to participate, particularly with the groundbreaking. Due to COVID, we haven't had well, we did have a ribbon cutting, and so there was a chance to kind of see it before it was fully complete. But I just want to acknowledge the Wegge Foundation. They were absolutely essential in playing a role in helping to fund this. The taxpayers of the city of Grand Rapids and their continued support for the city parks millage, which also paid for a portion of this. And then, of course, the city school liaison and our very unique partnership between the city of Grand Rapids and Grand Rapids Public Schools. Our two organizations are like hand in glove, and we're gaining that state and national attention for projects like these. And we just are appreciative that the National League of Cities, the Children in Nature Network, that they embrace this, and that we had the support from the Wegge Foundation. I would also add the City of Grand Rapids Environmental Services Department. So you can really see this is a unique public-private partnership, and is a crown jewel, at least currently, as our green schoolyard. And just want to encourage everyone to go check it out. It's located at 2401 Buchanan Avenue Southwest, just behind Burton Elementary Middle School. And that's all. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Helmholtz. And David, if you're out there, thank you. We're so grateful for the opportunity you've given our children to explore and play outside, one of the greatest joys of childhood. All right, thank you, Mr. Helmholtz. So from there, we will move on to our secretary's report. Secretary Lewis.
No report tonight.
Very good. Committee chair updates. Dr. Baker for the Academic Achievement Committee.
We had what was my final committee meeting as chair last Wednesday, and we mostly went over the work related to today's plan and how things went. So I will just let that happen when we hear a report on that. So anyway, and just let you know that the new academic chair was announced today, and that's Kimberly Davis. So I'm sure she'll do a way better job. So.
I always thought you did a good job, Tony.
Oh, well, thanks, Kathy.
Yeah.
You always let me know exactly how I did.
Well, I'm telling you the truth. You did.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you, Dr. Baker, for your leadership over the last year. Any questions for Dr. Baker about the last meeting? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to our superintendent's report. Dr. Roby.
Good evening once again, everyone. We are excited just about the events of today. As everyone is aware, today was the big kickoff of our first in-person day in nearly 10 months, and things went really, really well. It was a wonderful day for students and staff and parents. I saw lots of smiles from our families. I saw lots of smiles behind the mask, and so you got to look at people's eyes to kind of see the smile. But it was a really great day. Our district staff and support staff visited schools and saw many things that made the day really, really run smoothly. People were warm, enthusiastic in their greetings of their students as they came into the buildings. The care that our staff, the professionalism of our staff working together, and I'm going to do a short presentation, so I want you to see that as well. But most importantly, what school is about is our young people. We are in the business of serving our youth, the next generation, and people were excited to be in class. Our students are always learners. We as adults should also always be learners. And even today, I had an opportunity in Miss Andre's class. She's a kindergarten teacher. They taught me a brain break song, which I will not sing for you now, on how you cross different parts of your body, and that helps with reading. And the kindergartners were so excited to share their learning with me. And again, we're out to see buildings, our team. We have some images of different things that have taken place. And of course, with anything that you plan, there's always adjustments and small communication things that we're going to continue to work through. So I'm going to pull this up if I can. Hold on. Go back to my screen. All right, and are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Today, again, first day of school. Some of the things that you'll see, these were some of the welcome, it's the welcoming kind of flowers and different things that teachers and staff had done to show their school community that they were ready to greet them. Signs explaining which day it was, what's taking place on what particular day. Mitigation efforts, which I think is really important for people to understand. So as you look at the images on the screen, you see tables where X's, every other X, and so students are are marked off that way. Of course, there's signage reminding kids to go certain directions to make sure that they're not crossing one another. Here's where you stand to make sure that you're 6 feet apart. You see the, I'm drawing a blank, and I use it every day.
Sanitation station.
Thank you. Sanitation station. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ross. Schedules, a very detailed schedule of what's taking place, and then also where students should be going for their buses. Most importantly, this is what you see. You see kids. You see kids coming off the bus. You see kids in their mask. You see our staff out and about. I love this image because it shows just how much our staff was engaged. They were helping parents, they were giving kids instructions, helping direct them where to go. High school kids, that's Ottawa Hills High School, which recently had a renovation. You see them in the hallways. You see our staff greeting kids. What we always like to see kids doing, enjoying themselves outside playing. It was wonderful to hear laughter today. As you know, my office backs up against one of our schools, and when I was in my office checking some emails and things, I heard laughter on the playground. I was like, wow, I have missed this. And to be able to hear it, it was like, this is what school is about. Kids outside, kids playing with one another, kids having fun and just being children. And of course, what we do, which is learn. Kids were very engaged in their learning. Everyone had masks on, from our youngest students to our high schoolers. There was no issue from my knowledge of anyone having issues with masks. I had an opportunity to tour Aberdeen School with Principal Simon. She gave me a tour of the building, and we walked around and visited some classrooms. Of course, our staff engaged in the work that they do on the playground, managing hallways, teaching. Me and this little guy, we were practicing our air hug because he wanted to give me a hug, and we talked about the importance of keeping safe, but we can still have the same sentiment around an ear hug. And of course, again, our support staff, providing lunches, our building principals giving instructions to their students. You see our nutrition staff getting ready to serve lunches and meals. It was a great day. Kids engaged in learning, teachers were teaching, more students. There's some kids doing some exercises, probably a brain break in the lower left-hand corner. I'm gonna stop sharing right there. And then what I would like to do is invite Dr. Gorman, to come forward just to give a quick overview of kind of the logistics of the day. So Craig, if you can bring Dr. Gorman in.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you so much, Dr. Roby, for that recap, and team. Dr. Roby and I had a wonderful conversation about being back in school today, and it was just so refreshing after so long, really, to get to connect with kids after so much time being away. Just a quick recap. Today, of course, was cohort A. Tomorrow, all families will be working exclusively from home. So I know we just got started with cohort A, but cohort A, you're back at home tomorrow so that we can deep clean buildings. And then on Thursday and Friday, you'll be working remotely. Cohort B, you will be, of course, working from home tomorrow with cohort A, and then you will be in person on Thursday and Friday. So we're really excited to see you on Thursday and Friday. Many of the things Dr. Roby mentioned, the masks being worn, they were worn properly today. Board of Ed, you had been so proud of our students and staff members today. They were so well prepared. Students were following directions. Social distancing, not only in classrooms, but in common areas as well. From a class size perspective, I did not see anything today larger than 15. In many instances, there were 10 or less. So that's one thing that we're doing in GRPS that many folks in the region aren't doing, is we have really reduced class sizes. I noticed teachers and staff members following those cleaning protocols today. So After a class leaves at the high school level, teachers are ensuring that everything gets cleaned. And then, of course, at the elementary level, the cleaning is taking place every 4 hours. Again, the procedures are in place. We've sent schedules to families. If you are 100% virtual, of course, you will continue to work virtually from home. Our high school students are following their same schedules, so there's very little disruption. Of course, the elementary students, the days on which they're not attending in person, they'll be working on assignments at home asynchronously. And of course, there's lots of help out there from our very talented teaching staff and our principals. So again, tomorrow's a cleaning day, everyone stays home, and then we'll see cohort B on Thursday and Friday. And then of course, that will be repeated until another decision is made. But again, I just can't, we were so proud of our kids today and our staff members, and we wanted to ensure that we relayed that message to you. If you have any questions at this time, I would love to take them.
President Shock, I had a couple of questions. Yeah, I actually, I heard a couple of questions earlier today, and I believe both of these questions were answered at our Academic Achievement Committee meeting, but I didn't want to be incorrect when I responded. But one is, we talked about screening, COVID screening for employees, and someone was asking about any COVID screening for children. What COVID screening mechanism we are using for children.
Dr. Roby, would you like me to take that one? Okay, thank you. So of course, our students have to, our students' families or our students have to complete the screener every day before going to school. After they complete the screener, if there is a box, if there is a box that's checked yes to anything, that automatically goes to the building administration, and the building administration will essentially look for that particular student. Again, we're advising families that if a box is checked for any symptoms, please do not send students to school. Our parents receive these notifications through email. Students receive them as well. One thing we can ensure is that if we send them to students, everyone will get them. In some instances, email addresses may not be accurate. So parents, if you're not getting it in your inbox or if it goes to spam, check your student's account and make sure you please complete the screener every single day. Again, principals, because the classes are, the school sizes are really small, they're able to go through those lists and see if any students have marked yes to any of the symptoms or if the forms were not completed. It's a long way of saying yes, it's required every single day, Dr. Baker.
Okay, so basically the same as the employees screening.
Correct. Yeah, Dr. Baker, correct.
And then secondly, someone asked how substitutes are working in this kind of arrangement.
Absolutely. So I really thought we'd get past the first day without substitute teachers in the district, but I did see substitute teachers in our buildings today. Our principals are following the normal procedures for substitute teachers. We have a cadre of 50 substitute teachers who are working exclusively with the Grand Rapids Public Schools. So it's relatively easy to place those individuals in our schools. And these are folks, of course, who have familiarity with our students and our schools. So there's a group of 50 that we can tap right away if we need subs. And then there's another group of 30 for those folks who are working in the virtual environment. So you've got about 80 folks right there who are ready to step up and sub in our buildings. And then if we have to go further than that, if we're having challenges, we have many folks at Franklin campus who can step up and support buildings, many of whom who have teaching certs. So we're ready to go.
All right, great, thanks. Yeah, you did cover this stuff last week, but I appreciate you going.
No problem.
Dr. Gorman, what about shots for the vaccinations for the teachers? How is that going? Do you know?
Well, from word of mouth, it's going very well. I'm seeing lots of activity on social media and many educators, posting that they've had their first shot. Mr. Helmholt continues to send out notifications as it relates to how to get shots. And so in some instances, please be patient with us. As soon as John sends those out, those times get filled up. But it seems as though many teachers, just from word of mouth, social media, have gotten at least the first shot, and others are planning to get the shot relatively quickly. The first shot, that is.
And Dr. Gorman, I do have a question in regards to if one of our students show signs of something and they're missing school, at least for hybrid, how are we going to work homework stuff and those kinds of things?
Absolutely. So the first point of contact, of course, is that classroom teacher. And so if we think about normal circumstances when a student misses a significant amount of class time, the classroom teacher reaches out to the family and comes up with a plan to ensure that the student doesn't miss any work. I've had the question a few times that if a student can't participate, face to face, does the student automatically, go into the virtual model? And we want to look at all situations in isolation. But again, at the end of the day, we're going to make accommodations for our students. If for some reason an in-person model is just not working for a particular student, we make that shift to 100% virtual, but we'll be dealing with each issue in isolation.
One of the things that I did not say that I will be remiss if I did not mention it, we have continued conversations with our principals and a task force. We decided this week we wanted to let it get underway, and then we will continue and pick those conversations up with our building principals next week to find out how things have gone, any suggestions for moving forward, and we'll continue to do that work with our task force, and then certainly update the board through our return to learn plan as our plan evolves and changes based around needs.
And then Dr. Roby, John just shared with me that the screener is also on social media and on the website if folks would like to take a look.
Got it. Thank you. Are there any other questions for Dr. Gorman before I ask Mr. Johnson to come forward? All right. Sufficient enough wait time. Dr. Gorman, thank you. And Mr. Garib, if you can ask Mr. Johnson to come forward to talk about preparation for snow days.
Good evening, President Shockey, Dr. Roby. I believe you guys can hear me. I see some acknowledgement of head shakings, and other distinguished board members. Good evening. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to just update you on our severe weather process. Today has been a fun day. I too spent time in about 13 buildings, and it was absolutely a joy to see all the babies re-engage in academics, and also see all of our teachers and principals just doing what they do, and that's preparing to educate our kids. So thank you guys for your leadership. Dr. Roby, especially thank you for getting us back on track and getting our kids there. But as you know, this is the winter season, and it is Michigan. And during this time, there's oftentimes a necessity to close school or delay school because of severe weather. And each year we present to you our severe weather process. We vetted the process pretty thoroughly, and just want to share that with you tonight. What we try to do is we monitor the weather every night during the winter months. If it appears that we're going to have some severe weather that's going to prohibit us from getting our kids to school and staff to school safely, we try to make a decision before 11 p.m. the previous night. If we can make that decision by 11 o'clock, we would like to make it no later than 11:15. That will give our parents an opportunity to prepare for childcare or make whatever arrangements they need to make to take care of their youngsters that may be home. If that does not happen by 11:15, the next time we will make a decision will be about between 5 a.m. and 5:15. That information will go out to Dr. Roby. We will have teams out driving the roads. We'll consult with all of our partners throughout the community, the Kent County Road Commission, Grand Rapids Road Commission, taxi drivers, Uber drivers. We have just a cadre of people we want to talk to, as well as get out and drive the roads ourselves and see if we can maneuver some of our buses. If a decision is made, we make that decision prior to 5:30. We connect with our communications department, Mr. John Helmholt, who began to fan out this information through various social media sites, as well as through all of our executive directors and getting the information in. our teachers or our principals will arrive at the buildings if they can get there safely for the purpose of making sure that families who may not have heard the message don't arrive to school and cannot get in. So we have backup systems in place. Operations folks will still report. Public safety, if they can safely report, will still report. And we will stay on that track and stay out working until we make sure all of our kids are either safely tucked away or inside a building somewhere. There are many factors that would give us provide information to Dr. Roby to encourage her to not open school. And that has to do with the blowing, drifting snow, wind chill, whether or not our buses can get up and down the side streets. It's just a lot of factors that we put into it, a lot of decision makers, a lot of talking, as well as talking to our partners at other schools around the county and in the immediate surrounding areas to see how they're making their decisions. But again, 5:30 is the latest we can make that call. We have to make it by 5:30 because of our tiered busing system. And our buses start rolling out of the yard at about 5:45. So we would like to make that decision before they start rolling out. Again, a vetted system. It has worked for us over the years. We're always tweaking it to make it better. There's a lot of hands involved in it. A lot of people that's doing some notifications. So hopefully we won't have to use any snow days this year because we know that our kids, our families want to be in school. But again, we do live in Michigan and we know this weather is just unpredictable. I would entertain any questions that you may have at this time. If not, I'll turn it back over to Dr. Roby.
I do have one question, Mr. Johnson. I'm just curious, and maybe I missed it, but for the sake of potential confusion, if it's Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday, Friday, obviously many are virtual. If we're calling school, is that calling it for all, or how are we handling that?
I'll let Dr. Roby answer that question.
That's a great question. And what we have decided that would make the most sense and to keep confusion down, if it's a Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday, Friday, and it was a inclement weather or severe weather, we would call it for the entire district because it would be very confusing for people.
Dr. Roby, may I add, the other part of this process, if we have to end school early, we get information that we have a severe storm coming in. Again, if we're going to cancel afternoon sessions, pre-K afternoon sessions, we want to do that by 11 o'clock. And then if we're going to end school early, notifying all of our partners and our parents around the early ending of loop, that will take place. Oftentimes, if the kids are here, depending on how the weather is flowing, it's safer to keep them here and let the streets get plowed out and then take them home later. But if we see a pending storm coming in, we try to start ending evening programs to get folks home. Dr. Roby is the ultimate decision maker on all closings. We provide information to her, and then she regurgitate that back to us, the steps we need to take to shut it down. So thank you very much for the opportunity to present.
Any other questions for Mr. Johnson? All right. Well, that concludes our report.
Thank you, Dr. Roby, Mr. Johnson, and Dr. Gorman for your reports this evening. Next on our agenda are our action items. We just have one this evening, and that is the consent agenda grouping. Are there any questions or discussion about the consent agenda? All right, hearing none, may I have a motion for approval, please?
So moved.
Support. Okay, thank you, Ms. Williams and Ms. Davis. And Secretary Lewis, will you please call the roll?
You're on mute.
Thank you. Ms. Davis?
Yes.
Dr. Flores?
Yes.
Ms. Grant is absent. Ms. Lewis, yes. Reverend Matias?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Dr. Baker?
Yes.
President Jackie?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We have two discussion items this evening. The first is just a quick update and reminder that the board committees have been assigned You received an email earlier today from Julie outlining those committee assignments. So our chairs this year will be Reverend Matthias as our finance chair and treasurer, Ms. Davis as our academic achievement chair, Dr. Baker as our legislative chair, and Ms. Lewis as our policy chair. So committee members, you will be hearing from your committee chair soon to set up your monthly meeting schedule for 2021. Thank you all for your leadership. All right, the other discussion item we have this afternoon, actually, let me back up just a moment. I also wanted to let you know that I have convened an ad hoc RFP Development Committee. So at our last meeting, we talked about the need for us to develop a draft of our strategic planning RFP. I've asked Dr. Baker to chair that work, and working alongside him over the next couple of weeks is going to be Ms. Davis, Ms. Grant, and Reverend Matthias. This is full board work, but what this committee is going to do is come up with the draft timeline and draft version so that our February 8th work session, we as a board can then work together to finalize that draft and prepare to release the RFP. Any questions about any of that?
Quick question, Dr. Baker, we had a policy scheduled for tomorrow. Is that still a go?
Ms. Davis, because of January meetings.
Yes, the January meeting will be the committee from last year.
Okay, all right, thank you. Excuse me, Tony.
That's all right. You had me worried there for a second.
All right, very good. Thanks for the clarification. Okay, next agenda item is the Kent ISD Superintendent Search Stakeholders Session. So the Kent ISD Board of Education reached out asking us to contribute in their stakeholder session. So they are preparing to hire their next superintendent, of course, and have asked for 2 representatives. So I've asked Ms. Lewis and Mr. Ross to represent Grand Rapids Public Schools in that stakeholder session. But I wanted to open it up for just a minute or two for us to help lift up those priorities that we'd like mentioned by Mr. Ross and Ms. Lewis at that session. So as you have an opportunity to think about what matters to us as the largest school district in the ISD, what are those key priorities or points that we'd like Mr. Ross and Ms. Lewis to mention at the session?
This could be, I'm sure this is a big job. It's good that we're being included. I don't know if we, because it was a while ago, so maybe we were included the last time, but I would say I'm very impressed with whatever the ISD does. I mean, they have resources and facilities, personnel that are great. I would say that from my perspective, the decisions about who and how and what is done at the ISD was decided when this community was a lot different than it is now. And so I would want an inclusive process to really see how to address the district. I mean, the districts, all of the districts from northeast to southwest, et cetera. My sense is that a lot of the programs that are really fantastic are fairly distant and inaccessible from GRPS, and that might be a geography problem, but geography problems can be fixed. So that's just an inclusive, a reconsideration of the strategies.
Thank you, Dr. Baker. I think you're spot on.
I would also add that I suspect that it will give us an opportunity to look at our programming from our district and how it goes hand in hand with ISD, and because often there's been conflicts of scheduling and so forth, and this might be a really good opportunity that we can really enhance what both districts do best, and then figure out how that is really an awesome opportunity for our students to get access to opportunities that we may not provide, but that through scheduling and good partnership might be something that will really enhance opportunities and careers and so forth as our students seek those.
I think that's really interesting. It kind of goes to Dr. Baker's point of geography. You know, what could the ISD imagine and bring into the districts rather than requiring the districts to go to them? I think that is an innovative way to think about ISD programming.
I'd like to piggyback also and endorse what Reverend Matthias has said. I think that we ought to communicate that we certainly want a leader in that role that is committed to diversity, that is committed to inclusion, and that is innovative in their thinking about how to include the diverse populations that we serve in Grand Rapids in internships that are exploratory in nature for our students, and then for placement into programs that perhaps have underserved our populations, being populations of people of color within our district. And I think that we ought to be very assertive and not insisting, but encouraging them to look for a leader that reflects the greater population of Grand Rapids, metropolitan Grand Rapids, but that does so with a commitment to bringing in programming that serves the interests of people of color.
Anything else?
I think maybe just tagging on to all of those, adding the support of staff, teachers, you know, teachers and staff can do a lot of training through the ISD, and maybe just making sure that even in what Dr. Flores was saying, that the trainings and opportunities that are provided through the ISD are meeting the needs of each of the districts equitably based on what the districts need.
Yeah, very well said.
You know, I trust Dr. Roby's sense of how, and I think that to some extent we have you being new, Dr. Roby, and the eventual hire being new really allows you to really create a relationship that works for GRPS. And I guess, I mean, I think that role needs to work for all the districts, Wyoming and Godfrey Lee and Kentwood, et cetera, but it certainly needs to work for us. And if you're at the table, I trust that our perspective will be taken care of.
Thank you for that. And I want to always work very collaboratively with the ISD. I think it's important to have a strong relationship. And the things, as I'm listening to the conversation, I couldn't agree more. You know, having equity, having representation, making sure that, you know, that they obviously advocate for GRPS, and of course they're advocating for all of the districts, but our interest is GRPS, and to make sure that programs do not hinder the work that we are trying to do to elevate our own students, to make sure that there's tight alignment. So if we're not able to provide resources, that they're bringing them into the district, or they provide a way for us to work so that our students benefit from that programming model. And so, you know, and I'm always about equity being in the work and the talk of equity being aligned to some actionable outcomes. And so that's really what drives, because people have the talk, they can do the speak, but it's about what does our speak manifest itself into. And so making sure that whoever the new superintendent understands that we want to have some real outcomes that we can point to say, these were our goals and this is where we came close, here's where we need to tweak, here are the things that we're going to do moving forward.
All right, Mr. Ross and Ms. Lewis, do you feel like you have our words and our priorities? Great. Anything else before we move on? All right, thank you for the discussion. This is important. And thank you, Ms. Lewis and Mr. Ross, for taking time to be part of the broader conversation. All right, that ends our discussion items for this evening, so we'll move into public comment. We have 3 individuals wishing to speak with us this evening. First, I'll invite Mary Bowens to come forward.
President Shockey,
Yes,
did you want me to?
sure. That's great. Please do.
Okay.
Thank you for the reminder.
Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. You will need to state your full name before providing the comment. We will then start the timer at the beginning of your public comment time and provide you with a 1-minute notice indicating 1 minute remains. You will need to complete your comment time upon being notified that 3 minutes have passed. Board members do not respond to public comment. Concerns will be brought to the attention of the appropriate staff, and we value your input and thank you for sharing with us.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Lewis, and welcome, Ms. Bowens.
Thank you. Before I start, I wanted to say good evening to Dr. Roby, President Schottky, and board members. I also want to quote Article 3C from our collective bargaining agreement that says the association shall be recognized as part of the agenda of all regular board meetings. So I wanted to preface with that because I am here as representing GREA. I'm here to read a resolution regarding the requirement for in-building work for GREA employees providing services that can be provided remotely. Whereas the Grand Rapids Education Association mission is to ensure that its members' teaching conditions and its students' learning conditions are safe and of the highest quality. And whereas the Michigan Occupational Safety and Health Administration, MIOSHA, issued an emergency order on October 14th, 2020, effective for 6 months. And whereas Grand Rapids Public Schools is an employer in the state of Michigan, subject to the emergency order of MIOSHA, and whereas the order includes Rule 5.8 stating, quote, the employer shall create a policy prohibiting in-person work to the extent that their work activities can feasibly be completed remotely, end quote. And whereas GREA employees have been working remotely, providing instruction and services to students since April 2020, and whereas many students will continue to learn from home and many staff have been assigned work with those students in part or whole of their assignment. And whereas many GREA employees provide remote services to students, can feasibly continue to provide some or all of their services to students remotely. Now, therefore, be it resolved that 1, the GREA Executive Board, acting on behalf of and in the best interest of the members of GREA, students of Grand Rapids Public Schools, and the interest of the Grand Rapids community at large, objects to the unlawful requirement that employees who can feasibly provide services to students remotely report to buildings in person. 2, this unlawful decision unnecessarily places more people at risk of contracting COVID-19.
Ms. Bowens, you have 1 minute.
3, the GREA supports members' professional decision-making to determine whether and to what extent reporting in person is necessary to perform duties associated with providing services to students who are not reporting to school for in-person learning. This resolution was passed by the GREA Executive Board on January 18th, 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bowens. Next up for public comment is Ms. Wendy Winston. Can we please bring Ms. Winston forward? Hi, Ms. Winston. Ready when you are.
Hello, my name is Wendy Winston, and I'm a teacher in Grand Rapids Public School. And I just wanted to share a little bit of information with the board and the superintendent. So thank you for having me, board and Dr. Roby. First of all, it was a fairly smooth day in my classroom. Most of my students came prepared with their materials. Most of them were following the expectations of social distancing and mask wearing. And A few of them were confused about the schedule. I think having yesterday off, one of my students tried to come to their Monday classes. So they were a little bit confused about the schedule, but that happens in normal times as well. A few issues that we had were I reminded my students to complete the daily health screener, and one of them asked for assistance, and I couldn't find it in her email. So I'm not sure if she didn't receive it or if she had a filter on or something like that. So I'm hoping that we can get that cleared up. And then another student asked for help with the health screener, and she was unable to submit it. So she couldn't like click the button to turn it in. And I'm not sure, I didn't want to get too close to figure out exactly what was going on, but so a couple of glitches with that. And I know it's the first day, so I just wanted to make sure that we look into those things. Another issue that I heard of, and this is related to substitute teachers, we had some staff members who were out sick, and other teachers were asked to cover their classes during the planning time of that teacher, and also to combine classes. So take students from their class and from the teacher who was out sick's class and put them together. So there's a couple issues with that. First of all,
Winston, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. It's really difficult to contact trace. I have seating charts for all of my classes, and that's part of our procedures, so that if there is a student who tests positive, we can contact trace and make sure that those other students stay home for a little while. If we're combining classes, that's not a great idea. So we actually have written procedures for how to cover classrooms for teachers who are out sick or who are quarantining, and I just want to make sure that we're following them. And the first thing is to use those dedicated subs that Dr. Gorman talked about.
All right, thank you, Ms. Winston. And last, we will invite forward Anna Schulte. Welcome, Ms. Schulte. We're ready when you are.
Hi, I can't turn my camera on, but can you guys hear me?
We can hear you. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Anna Schulte, fourth grade teacher, Grand Rapids Public Schools. I'm currently on leave. I was teaching virtually, and I would also like to address the mandate that virtual teachers report to the building. My husband had an accident 2 years ago, February, leaving him disabled. He is now in a high-risk category for COVID-19. My 71-year-old aunt was taking care of him while I worked previous to the onset of the virus, and she is now unable to do so because she herself is at an advanced age and at high risk for the virus. My older son attends the school where I work, and he will be continuing to attend virtually to protect himself and my husband. I'm not the only teacher that struggled with this. My grade level colleague is also on leave. And between the two of us, we have left 45 virtual students with a substitute teacher. Before beginning marking period 2, I provided HR with a note from my husband's doctor regarding his risk status. I made the district aware again after we were told we would have to return to our buildings, and I turned to the GRPS COVID-19 Prepared Response Plan to find out how to appeal. This is a plan that all employers submitted to the state and have agreed to follow. I found that I could appeal Attachment G, Section 6. The plan also states, quote, all administrators will be familiar with the plan and prepared to answer questions from employees. My questions were ignored and my appeal was disregarded. I pointed out various instances where virtual teachers' return violates the plan, and I was not given a response. Of course, my husband's condition makes my situation unique, and that's why I thought I would get an appeal. But all employees should be, quote, prohibited from in-person work.
One minute.
That their activities can feasibly be done from home. GRPS COVID-19 Preparedness Response Plan, Section 5. I was put in the heartbreaking position of choosing between my work and my family. This has been a disservice to my students and the people I work with in my building that I've been forced to take a leave. I appreciate all that our school system has done so far to keep us safe, and we all want this to be over. But unfortunately, we're not quite there yet. I do believe the only way to get through this is to listen to the guidelines of the experts, follow our plan. All teachers reporting is equal, but making reasonable accommodations for high-risk families is equitable. Thank you for considering my students and my family and re-examining this policy. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Schulte. All right, that concludes public comment this evening, and we'll move on to superintendent's comments. Dr. Roby.
Good evening once again. Again, I want to just give kudos, and thank you doesn't seem sufficient, but I have no other words other than to say thank you. And, and I get in trouble when I start naming off people and saying what they did, because then I inadvertently miss someone, and that's never the intent. So I'll just say to our families, our teachers, our building principals, our support staff, all the different groups, our board, thank you for your commitment to GRPS and working with our most precious commodity, our young people. Thank you for pitching in. Thank you for stepping up. Thank you for being encouraging and welcoming our families and our students back. Thank you for having clear routines. Thank you for going above and beyond. For our office staff, thank you for just being the quarterbacks of the school. I listened to many of you today answer questions and provide more instruction for families, keeping your principals on schedule. For our drivers and our food service folks, you're the first people often that our young people see as they enter our buildings and come onto our school grounds. Thank you for being that welcoming face and reminding them to wear their mask. Tech, facilities, operations, you do a lot of stuff behind the scenes, behind the walls, when no one's awake, and often on weekends. Thank you for all the things that you did to get our buildings ready. It was a beautiful day. Our buildings look great. The equipment ran well. People felt good about being in those locations. To our board, thank you for your advocacy and leadership and your push on me as superintendent. I am new to this community, but I could not be more proud of what I saw today. And then finally, to our students and our parents, thank you for sending your children and selecting GRPS and making this your choice. Thank you, students, for your laughter. Thank you for your engagement and just being able to see you walk the halls and be in class. That filled my heart. And this is what the work is about as an educator, to see children in schools. And I just can't say, again, thank you enough. It was a great day, and I am so excited about what the rest of the school year holds. And that concludes my comments for this evening.
All right, well said. Thank you, Dr. Roby. Let's see. Reverend Matthias, may I start with you tonight?
Sure, just really appreciate our teachers and our parents and our students for hanging in there. We are excited to provide you with the education that you deserve. And again, thank you to our superintendent and her staff for pushing and trying to make things prepared for all concerned. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Matthias. Ms. Williams.
Yes, I just would like to also say thank you to all of the GRPS staff, as well as our partners in that, from the bus drivers to contract workers to subs. Thank you so much for supporting our families, and congratulations to my colleagues who have been.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. All right, Ms. Lewis.
Yes. A week ago, last Wednesday, I came home and turned on the TV set to see that a group of homegrown terrorists had attacked our Capitol building. And I've lived a long time, and I don't think I ever prepared myself for an insurrection. So I have been trying to process exactly what happened and what I can or should do about these situations. So I checked with people I respect and admired. And so John Lewis suggested that we say something, we do something, and we get in some good trouble. So I'm looking for some good trouble to get into. But if I don't find it right away, I will have to continue my mission here on this school board and servicing our wonderful kids here in Grand Rapids Public School. And I feel that it is so appropriate that as we celebrate Martin Luther King's birthday, that we continue to use equity as our North Star. And I consider it to be a blessing that I have been chosen to serve on this board. Sometimes I feel that I have been called to serve here, but not because I have any of the answers, but because I have so many questions. And my questions revolve around how do we make this a better and more fair world for all of our kids? We have serious weaknesses in our society, but I know that we can be better. And I truly believe that education and communication are what we have in our work bag and what we can use. And that if we teach our kids to be critical thinkers and to ask questions, that maybe our kids' generation can live with a little bit more peace and live together with a little more harmony. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Ms. Lewis. All right, Mr. Ross, let's go to you next.
Not much I can say to follow that up. So no comment. And I think Dr. Roby, all the thanks she gave is really that litany of folks that she thanked. I definitely want to underscore all of that for sure. And otherwise, no comment.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. And no, that wasn't fair of me. Somebody had to go next. All right, Dr. Baker, let's go to you.
Yeah, look out world. Kathy's looking for some good trouble to get into. So can't appreciate her words more. So anyway, thanks for those words. And again, thanks for the pictures. Dr. Roby, great seeing teachers and children in our school buildings. Imagine that. And also really appreciated seeing social media posts from my Facebook friends that are teachers and how excited they were to get back in the building. And so it's, you know, it feels good. So that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Baker. Ms. Davis.
Well, what I want to say pretty much mirrors what Dr. Roby said, but I'll just add to it. Thank you to all of the staff and really the entire community for just coming together and, you know, being innovative and flexible and determined to put our kids first. And I know that all of our kids were loved on today by the staff at all of our buildings, and I just appreciate their flexibility. And, you know, each day is going to get better and better. It's a lot of new things, but that's the story of this past year. Lots of new things. And hopefully we've all learned to be stronger and stronger each day because of it. So thank you to everybody for all of your work.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Dr. Flores.
Yeah, first of all, let me apologize. I was having some technology issues during the meeting, but I'm back, and you can see I'm here twice. I think I can't get out of the other one, but hey, yeah, twice. You had 2 scoops of Dr. Flores this evening. I'd like to say thank you to the staff for the wonderful job that you're doing, and to the community and to the teachers out there. I'd like to say, you know, hey, as quickly as you possibly can, get the vaccination. Let's get back to normal as safely as we can. These are trying times, but please continue to support the Grand Rapids Public Schools and our leadership team, because they're doing a great job. And I'm sure that we'll get on track. We'll get back to normal soon. So thank you and have a good evening.
All right, thank you, Dr. Flores. Well, it's been a long time, and I had a short tenure as a cheerleader for the Houghton Gremlins, but this morning I just wanted to be out there cheerleading for our students and our staff. We are proud of you, and we are grateful for you, and we are here for you. So thank you for everything that you did today, will continue to do. I wanted to reference that I had the opportunity to virtually attend the Mlk Breakfast put on by our Urban League of West Michigan and listen to Dr. Roby on the panel, and also have the pleasure of watching the chat. And that was the best part, because I got to see our community rally behind Dr. Roby and her words. And she said exactly what you heard tonight. Equity is about action and not words. And that is how we're going to lead moving forward. And I'm so proud to be a part of this team for that reason. All right, my last comment is simply that just moments before this meeting, I got an email from someone I don't know, and it was the president of the Lansing Public School District. And she reached out just to let